Welcome back to another episode of Boys on Film. I should say Happy New Year as well. Once again, I'm delighted to have my co-host, who is Sean Vickers.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Phil. Nice to see you.
Good to see you as well. And at the star of a new film, which we saw yesterday, which is Rose Pandemic. Thrilled to welcome and say Happy New Year to ALISTAIR Hall, who is in the film. How are you, ALISTAIR?
Hi, Happy New Year. I'm very good, thank you. Happy to be here.
How did you spend it? Were you FaceTiming, Zooming?
I was with a friend, part of my bubble, and we watched, we spent the evening watching a horror film. We watched Host, which was terrifying, but brilliant. Yeah. Such
a good movie. Sean, you haven't seen it for obvious reasons.
And I never will see it for obvious reasons, because I hate horror. But it sounds lovely.
It's a good segue into horror film, because it's only an hour. It's less than an hour, I think. So
okay. I might be able to get my anxiety under control for a 1 hour film, maybe.
Now, we've seen a film which is even shorter than Host. It's 10 minutes. It's Rose Pandemic. ALISTAIR, tell us about this. Give us the setting without spoiling too much.
Okay, so Rose Pandemic is set in Pimlico. It is set in the height of the pandemic, first lockdown. And it's a story that centers around Rose, the central character, and her reunion with her son, who she's been estranged from for 8 years. It's focused on their relationship and how the pandemic brings them together to heal.
Yeah. And we should say it's directed by Daisy Lewis. Is that right?
Yeah, Daisy Lewis, who is a great director.
How did you get involved with Daisy, Al?
So I've known Daisy for a couple of years. I saw her first short film, Actress, which I really recommend. Andrea Riseborough is the lead. And
amazing.
It's a short, sharp burst of like psychological energy. And obviously Andrea Riseborough is amazing to watch in it. So I'd seen that. And then Daisy came to see me in a play in 2019 and has just been really supportive since then. So that's how I know Daisy.
Wonderful. I have to say, Actress is amazing. It really is a fantastic. You know that. I mean, Phil, you know I love a short film.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has an incredible intensity to it, Actress, as does Rose Pandemic in a different way.
We were talking about your love for shorts before, especially with the BFI London Film Festival that we covered. But I just wanted it to carry on. I wanted to see more because I was so intrigued by what was going to happen next. And obviously we can't talk about that because there is a tension on screen as well, because you play the son of Patricia Hodge, who... And I was going to ask you about her as well, because she's such a national treasure. Was it quite a terrifying thing to be starring alongside her?
I mean, I was definitely nervous. And this was kind of the first bit of filmic acting I've done. But she just has this energy about her. She like wears her professionalism. She wears her experience. It's like you can feel it like in her. So, which immediately actually is really relaxing, because I kind of knew I'd be in safe hands. And so... You know, we filmed the scene quite quickly. It's the longest scene we have together, and we filmed it under an hour. And, you know, it was just great. Like, it's really good to work with someone like her.
She, for me, I don't know about you boys, but for me, she was always immortalized in The Lives and Loves of a She-Devil, which was that dramatization in I think it was like 86, I think, where she plays that lady Mary, I think she's called Mary Hodge, and she lives in a lighthouse, and it's just amazing. And that was like the first, I think I was like 7. That's like the first piece of like drama that I saw on TV, which probably now is a bit, I don't know how it comes across now, but that's probably how I had Patricia Hodge kind of lodged in my mind from that. I don't know if you boys remember it.
That's so funny you say that, because I remember it's really vivid piece of TV. I remember I think I was in like 17 or something at the time. And it's something that I have forgotten about recently, which is crazy because it was such a strong performance. But now you think of Patricia being in Miranda and playing Miranda's mum in Miranda's Hearts TV show. But of course, she's got so much history and there's so much stage work that she's done as well.
I think that's how I'm sort of most familiar with her, because when I started acting a few years ago, I went through all the Desert Island Disc archive recordings and listened to all the interviews with actors. And Patricia Hodges was one of them. And she talks so much about her stage work in that. I don't know, for me, she's kind of like her stage work and the people she's worked with are so iconic.
She's amazing. And she also does comedy and straight acting so well equally, because some people, I suppose, are really good at comedy, but not so much the straight roles. But she tackles both brilliantly, I think. She's an amazing actress.
And Al, how was it, like, it looks beautiful, and I think that's Thomas Shawcroft, I think, who did the cinematography.
Yeah.
How was it? How did it feel when you were on set? How was the film kind of put together? What was the kind of mood?
You know what? Because we were so fresh out of the first lockdown, so there was kind of this like natural tension in the air of needing to stick to the schedule and get it done. But before we filmed that scene, we'd had to wait about an hour for the rain to stop, because it was been this beautiful day, like amazing sunshine, and all of a sudden, boom, like this torrential rain hit. So me and Patricia were like stood under this tree, just sort of like waiting for the rain to stop, which actually was perfect because it gave us that time to sort of like just be in each other's company. So filming wise, it was good. Yeah, there was definitely something in the air that day. I feel like you can do all the preparation you want, right, as an actor. But with Patricia, we just had this natural chemistry, which felt like mother and son. And that teamed with, obviously, the subject of the film is pandemic. And because we were in one, nothing felt faked. So it was really magical.
That's really good to hear, because I suppose it makes it feel more genuine, and from a viewer's perspective it feels real, because of course you're in that lockdown situation or in that pandemic situation, because it's centered around people who are experiencing the same as we are, so that makes it feel more real.
And that was true for everyone, the crew as well. Like we were all navigating like, okay, how do you make work at post lockdown? So
I love how Rose, when she wakes every day, it feels like she's going through the same thing. It's like, that's what we're doing. The alarm clock goes off, she's feeding the dog. And I just love, there's a real kind of subtle comedy in there as well.
Was the script particularly written through the lens of the pandemic, or was it something that had been put together and then was adapted given the times we were going through?
So when Daisy called me up about the project, the first thing she did was talk about BAFTA Crew, which is an amazing initiative which puts emerging talent from the film industry together. It's sort of so like a director, the writer, the DOP, and they're given 6 weeks to create something. And so Peter Darney, who is the writer, he's an amazing screenwriter and playwright. He created this story specifically for this project. So it's very reactive to what was going on and treated like a brief.
Amazing. That's where my mind was at, because it was, it was put together in such an interesting part. 2020 will go down in history as such a weird and interesting year for all media and all kind of creative arts. Like how this came about, I find so interesting, and the outcome being so great. I think it's just it's an interesting kind of like microcosm of what's going on today. So yeah, I think that's brilliant. So I'm just very interested to see how it all hung together, really.
It felt most truthful, because I know that last year was definitely a year for people to reunite with friends they kind of lost touch with, or family they were estranged from. And maybe not even that dramatic, but I know it was definitely, people were really needing to reach out and really needing to communicate with each other. So I think that's, for me, is why the films felt so truthful. Yeah, definitely.
Well, there's something quite interesting about when you have a lot of time on your hands and then you realize something like the pandemic, which is so huge, you kind of put things in perspective. And that's what I quite liked about Rose Pandemic, because there's a resolution that comes through something else. I'm not going to say it in the short film. Something happens that then triggers a resolution, or the beginning of a resolution. And I think it happens a lot in the pandemic, because people have all this time on their hands and you start to realize what's important. And so I think it's really captured really well in the film.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because people are really reflective, aren't they? Because you look back on, you've got more time to think about previous relationships if you've lost touch with somebody. And I think that's a really good thing. I think that's a nice thing to come out of the pandemic situation. One of the positives.
Totally.
So Al, how do we get hold of this film? How do our viewers get hold of this film?
So it's up on Vimeo. It had its digital premiere just last week. And so it's available and free to view and free to share. So yeah, it's up on Thomas Shawcroft's Vimeo profile.
Congratulations, Alistair. It's a really good film. I recommend, we both recommend people to see it. What's next for you now? Do you know what's coming up?
Well, my New Year's resolution is to kind of take things very slowly this January. But I'm lucky next week I'm acting in a workshop with a playwright and performer and director called Alexis Gregory. He's written a new play, and so we're kind of workshopping that in a theatre, behind closed doors, obviously, but it will just be really exciting to be back like in a theatre and get to do some acting in a rehearsal room. So yeah, that's next for me.
And have you been doing any R&D, Al? Anything on your own work?
I have I've just finished writing a new play, which I did an R&D on before the end of last year. So I think I'll kind of return to producing that, seeing what happens with that.
Look forward to seeing it. I'm so glad you're working as well, because a lot of people obviously aren't, but the whole entertainment industry, it's really struggling, and it's good to see that you're still able to do things.
Well, this is it. This is why it's like I'm just taking it bit by bit. If I have something, I'm really grateful to have it, and then the quiet periods just make sure that I'm kind of trying to live life as positively as possible.
It's really good to meet you, albeit online.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Best
Al.
wishes.
Take it easy.